Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Grind. My name is Kelly Johnson, your fun and friendly host. We are kicking off season 2, the very best one yet. First episode in the books. Shout out to my podcast team, Ambiguous Network, and fellow pods on there. Where to find more about the network, head over to ambiguouspodcastsolutions.com. If you're interested in joining the network, reach out to Will Tershuk and his team. If you are a new Daily Grinder listening to this pod or have been grinding with us since season 1, feel free to check out our journey so far and share your feedback with us. Get us on the map, help us grow, and share this episode with a friend. Tag them on social, send them the link, and give us a rating and quick review on Apple. Virtual high five to you in advance. So since the season started, I've been providing a fun fact to start our show. So we're going to add this to the pod going forward. Fast facts with hashtag KellyFast. So friendships, connections, and more. Taken from one poll survey conducted by Evite, polling U.S. adults in March of 2019. So 45% of adults say they find it difficult to make new friends. 45% would go out of their way to make new friends if they knew how or had more opportunities. So in summary, average American has 3 best friends, 5 good friends, 8 people they like but don't spend one-on-one time with, 50 acquaintances, 91 social media friends. So yeah, that's pretty interesting stuff. Speaking of friends, I connected with Nate via the Anchor Podcast Facebook group, and here we are today. Welcome him back on the Daily Grind. If you missed my first interview with Nate, you can search his name, Nate Jones, and my name. It'll be one of the first few results on Google, or go to our podcast network, ambiguouspodcastsolutions.com, and episode 42, and you can find everything, including all the links, life tips, resources mentioned in that episode. So yeah, we're going to welcome Nate Jones back on the Daily Grind.
Woo! Yes! Hello, I'm back. It's so nice to be here with you all for season 2.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have Nate back on the podcast, Daily Grind listeners out there. Hallelujah. So for our new listeners out there, can you remind us, Nate, on the pod, who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
Sure. Well, hello, new listeners. My name is Nate. I'm from the Washington, D.C. area, and I am a Jesus replicant. I live by biblical principles in the operation of my relationships with people. I'm customer service rep at Farmers Insurance for now the 5th calendar year in a row. I was with Allstate previously and I switched over. And I'm also the host of the Life Tips podcast, which is in the self-improvement category of Apple. I'm a motivational speaker, and I'm also the face of the Wise Orator brand. So that basically is a little bit about me, who I am, and what I do.
Really great stuff there, Nate. So as you can tell, Nate is a true daily grinder out in the world, and he's here today on episode 1 of our season 2. So I guess, yeah, let's start off right at the bat. So since our episode 42, what has happened since your first guest appearance on the Daily Grind? I'm guessing a lot.
Wow, yes, a lot has happened in the time period since. Restrictions have been lifted on lockdowns and life is returning to normal despite cases rising in other states. Got back into the job world, met 11 to 12 new podcast friends, one of them being Kelly. And I hit a major milestone within the podcast world, which we'll talk about in just a second. And so, yeah, since my last appearance on the Daily Grind, everything has just been moving and moving and moving. And by the time you hear the rest of what I have to say for the Life Tips podcast, I'm pretty sure you all will be so eager to just come on board and see what else I've been working on in these last several months since episode 42.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot, Nate. It's crazy. We were off air. It feels like, Nate, we just interviewed each other the other day, basically. But yeah, fast forward. I guess time flies when you're having fun. Basically, I think since one of our last discussions, you talked about big milestones in podcasting, over 1,000 plays and counting, recording season 4 on Life Tips as we speak. So, yeah, what are like the key takeaways that have helped you grow the podcast to where you are today?
Wow. So, one of the key milestones I mentioned before is that we did hit over 1,000 total plays. We're currently sitting at 1,515, if I'm not mistaken, 15, 16, one of those. This reflects, of course, Anchor, Apple, Google, Spotify, and all that. And like Kelly said, we are on season 4. Episode 1 is out. Episode 2 will be live on Monday the 13th. And then episode 3 will be live the week after on, Monday the 20th. So 2 episodes will be live by the time you guys are hearing this one. And so one of the ways that we got to over 1,514 is the Apple link. The other way being invitations. In podcasting, you want people to be able to find you easily. That's a huge part of the marketing process, and it's also a reason that we ask our members to leave reviews and ratings as much as possible during our shows. All podcasters seem to do that, and it's because reviews and ratings drive up your visibility. But you can only do that through Apple Podcasts at the moment. Other platforms don't seem to allow you to leave reviews and ratings. And then from the invitation standpoint, I've had to send the link out to the guests on my show so they would know what they're getting into. And throughout that process, they all loved it, subscribed, left a review and rating. We have about 22 ratings on Apple right now. Some have gotten the actual Anchor link, but it all goes together. So as time goes on, hopefully more will do the same. I'll share some more details about season 4 further down the show, but it has started already, and more incredible episodes are on their way. But in the end, it was the Apple link and guest invitations and the guests actually spreading the episode to their market and to their niche of connections that have helped the numbers skyrocket to where they are today.
That's really great, Nate. Yeah, can you tell our listeners some of the cities or places that some of the guests that you've had since I've had you on the Daily Grind, like who you've interviewed so far, like across the country, even abroad too, right?
Yes, yes. So it's amazing that Kelly referenced that as we speak. Let's see, going here. Just a few places from the 3rd season, since that was the previous season that was launched. We had Shinjini from Los Angeles, and we had one of my favorite spontaneous guests, Smila from Kenya, Africa. And that really started the international push on Life Tips podcast. And so now with season 4, we have guests coming on from all over the US and across the way. We're talking Syracuse, New York. Never had anybody from New York come on before. That's new. More of Los Angeles, the mountainous Cali area that's a little bit further away from LA, but still more of the state of California is coming on. Central North Carolina, another guest or a new guest, should I say, from Nigeria, and episode 3's guest is from the UK. So I am super, super excited for all these episodes to come in the future and for you all to see and hear, mostly hear, some of the guests from all around different parts of the United States and from around the world. So I'm super excited for what's coming in season 4.
Definitely. Yeah, me too. I think a lot of us that are tuning into your show, as well as our new listeners on the Daily Grind and all over that are coming across our podcast, are super interested to hear those different personalities from across the globe. I think that's really important too. You can spread your audience and share your wealth with all others, whoever, different people are in different jobs, different parts of their life, different stories. I think that's really important. And again, your life tip can help those listeners out there with their unique personality. So yeah, going with life tips here. Perfect transition. Can you share some of your life tips for our listeners in achieving their goals?
Sure, sure. The first thing I'll say is be persistent. Achieving goals didn't just happen overnight, and it doesn't happen with just a few tries at something. You've got to be diligently grinding and working hard to attain what you're going after. Don't give up on your calling. Just because it's not making you any money right now, it will eventually. You just have to stick with it, promote it like crazy, talk about it like crazy, and be all about your calling outside of whatever you do for your 9 to 5 hustle. Now, if that is your 9 to 5 hustle and you're blessed to do what you love and no longer have to work a 9 to 5 to support yourself, go hard 24/7, but take breaks as well, because burnout is real and it's dangerous. And then lastly, it doesn't make sense to attempt to achieve goals, achieve them, and then you find out you're not doing as well as you would want to, because what you're giving out to people is not as, I'll say, receptive as they would want it to be. It's all about being authentic. If you're authentic as a person, it means that you have a kind heart and pure motives. You always come through with a smile. You're personable, easy to work with, understanding, and gracious. Personality in this business and in what we do as podcasters, that's everything. Character and integrity is everything. So when it comes to achieving your goals, yes, go hard. Yes, work at it. Yes, put in the effort and the grind, since we're on the daily grind. But, there's some things that you have to have within yourself that will make your hustle more attractive and more desirable towards other people, that will draw them to really ask what you're doing, inquire about what's going on, and also join you on the journey to succeed.
Mm-hmm. Really well said there, Nate. Lots of good life tips with our listeners out there. And again, these, in achieving your goal, this can be not just a physical or athletic goal. It can be a career goal. This could be something, a financial goal. This is very
Yes.
applicable to multiple settings.
hmm Yes, I agree. It doesn't matter where you are in life, what your status is. All this, plays a part in achieving what you're looking for from your daily grind in all areas of life and in all backgrounds of the workforce. So yeah, I totally agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like what you first mentioned, like being persistent and just having that personality or that character shine through. I think is really important. Definitely a key takeaway in today's episode. Don't give up on your callings. Don't, if you have a bad day, that's okay. That's one bad day out there. There's 7 days a week. There's how many days a year? So there's a lot of ways you can look at it positively. And again, look at achieving that goal. Again, you can have a short-term goal or a long-term goal, things like that. A lot of what Nate said is applicable to everyday life in general. With achieving those goals, how can our listeners, I guess, stay focused or stay on track to accomplish them?
Create a strategy, create a game plan. That's the first one. You can't win the race. You can't win the race without knowing how your own system works, right? It's the same as in life itself. You have to know what works best for you and what works best for you specifically, not what works best for somebody else that you can easily copy and paste into your own regiment. The second thing I would say is create a team. Grab people who are excited about listening to or watching your content if you're a YouTuber, who are excited about helping promote you, and then go from there, because along the way, your team will expand. How do I know? works, I've got a network of people for myself who listen in. As I mentioned before, I garnered 12 podcaster friends, people who are absolutely dope humans and just friends in general, but who are in love with the Life Tips podcast. But that's not all. There are more people on board with the show who aren't friends, who are mostly supporters of the show. The number of people combined together brings the total of my personal network to about 25 people out of 1,515 that are actually listening. And so with those 23 or to 25 people always looking out for promotional material, listening into episodes, sharing episodes, giving feedback, keeping me motivated, encouraged, inspired, and driven to succeed in the podcast world as a motivational speaker and public figure, that's everything to me. So with a team behind you, there's nothing you can't do.
Really well said there, Nate. I think you hit the nail on the head there in regards to having a team and be able to utilize your team, again, sharing your strengths with them and vice versa. I think it's really important. Again, a support system, your cheer squad, however you want to name it, dream team. I'm a part of a few of those at work or outside of work. So I think it's really important to have that. And again, that's really cool stats that you have there. 25 out of 1,515 and counting. So it's only going to grow from here.
Yeah, and I'm really excited. I'm blessed. It's literally a miracle because, as I mentioned before on my last appearance, it had only been about 5 months of podcasting. We're now into July, and we've officially crossed over into 8 going on 9 months of podcasting. And so to just be here at this level all around the world, not just on, you know, Apple and Google and Spotify, but around the world. Italy is listening in. I have people in Italy listening into the show, and there's going to be more places out of the country that pop on as the season continues. So just knowing that you're heard not just where you physically are located in the US, but around the world, that makes all the difference in the world. And it really does motivate you to continue getting up every day and really going hard on your daily grind, because there are people out there dependent on you, your show, your life tips, your motivation. And that's one of the things that I love about being on the daily grind. The daily grind really nails the focus on everyday activeness and being active in life. And Kelly does just a phenomenal job, putting in serious work every day with this show. I'm really glad that you guys are a part of her journey, and I literally cannot wait to listen into episodes 2 and 3 and just keep supporting this platform, because it really means a lot to me.
Oh, thank you, Nate. Very well said. I appreciate you staying. So glad we got connected. Now we're networking. Now we're building our podcast together, growing, expanding, motivating each other on our own daily grind. So it's really, really important to do that. Support your squad, support your team, support your teammates, and however you want to, whatever your nickname is for your team, yeah, preach it loud and clear. Okay. So yeah. So Nate, you do a superb job of keeping in touch with your network. So I wanted to ask questions for our listeners out there. How can they stay connected to key influencers who do not work in the same office or, located in the same area? Like Nate and I, I'm in Chicago. He's more out by DC. But like for our listeners out there, how can they stay connected?
Yeah, sure. Utilize social media. That's the first thing. Not just any form of social media, but use all of them, but use the ones that the influencers are actually on and actively involved in. So if it's Instagram, use Instagram. Instagram accounts for, in my opinion, 90% of where the influencers are, Twitter would account for 5%, and then TikTok would account for the other 5%. So Twitter and TikTok combined take up the next 10% of where the rest of the influencers are. As Shinjini said during her episode appearance, she advised to have one form of social media that you regularly use, and then of course the other three is backup accounts for every now and then usage. So like Twitter, I've said this a million times already, that Twitter is the number one platform that most public figures use to keep in touch with their fans, their audience, et cetera, et cetera. It's what Kelly and I use to keep in touch with each other primarily, and with our separate audiences for our podcasts. But you can use more. You can use more avenues: FaceTime, Google Meet, Zoom. Of those 12 podcast friends I told you about, some of them I have personal numbers for, but the majority of them, we use Google and Zoom to meet up on a monthly basis and exchange ideas with each other, as well as chat about life, because we're not just podcast hosts, we're people. So I highly suggest you follow and use these services, because those connections that you make with people outside of your own geographical location will prove beneficial in the long run, because some of them could end up becoming lifelong friends. You never know who you're going to meet in this day and age, with all of us in this flipped upside down world from before it was we can go out face to face and meet people. Now face to face is regimented and strictly tied down for our safety and for our protection. And the internet world has become the new norm of meeting people and keeping in touch with friends and family and coworkers and just everybody, even church. So with the world flipped upside down, you never know who you're going to meet these days on the internet. So yeah, take those tips into consideration when you're keeping in touch with influencers who may or may not be in your geographical location.
Really well said there, Nate. I think today's age, I don't know what the exact statistic is, but I would assume at least 90% or higher people have a smartphone, I would guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably
Mm-hmm.
of those people with a smartphone, majority of them have like one of the social media apps on their phone. Not just one, maybe multiple. I have multiple. I'm assuming a lot of people out there. And then, yeah, focus on one of the social media platforms. Like Nate mentioned as well, with COVID going on, this has definitely, I'd say, increased the amount of usage on these platforms to communicate with others, stay in touch with people that are close in your circle, or new friends that you're just about to make. And there's a lot of more, definitely there's an increase in virtual events that have been happening, or virtual programs. So, get in touch with coworkers or interact with other people that have similar interests than you. So I think today's age is, the time is now basically in being able to stay connected with those key influencers. And now I think a lot of the technology and like Google and Zoom have really improved over this past year for making it a lot easier for you to do it. So I would suggest go out there and try one of those out if you haven't already, or, take a different spin, learn a new hobby, connect with people of similar interests, and connect with people all over the place, not just the U.S. or my outside listeners out there, Italy and all over the place, Europe. Challenge you. It's only time zone is not really a constraint. I mean, you can talk to someone in the early in the morning and they could be at night, or vice versa. So you can make ways around it. That's just a small challenge, and you can overcome it and achieve that goal, and reaching out to someone new. So speaking of staying connected with friends and networking during COVID, Nate, what have you done to stay connected during this COVID time? We're still not fully 100% back to normal, but some life tips for us.
Yes, because we are not fully back to normal yet. We're getting there, but we're not there yet. And some states, unfortunately, have begun to shut back down because their cases have risen. So Life tips, specifically for staying connected with friends. I'm going to split this up into two parts. If you are in a state that, you're shutting back down, you're probably going to have to go a more virtual route. If you're in a state where the numbers continuing to decline, you might be able to get away with some face-to-face interaction. But regardless, you can still do these tips. FaceTime. I've literally had to look into my FaceTime app to just see how many people I talk to, but I can count offhand probably 6 to 10 friends that I regularly FaceTime with, because it's a huge plus. It's a huge bonus. There's more fun things coming in September when Apple releases iOS 14 and the new iPhone comes out. But everyone's going to get iOS 14. That's iPhone because it's a software update, and it's bringing a lot of stuff that I can't talk about. But the keynote is already out, and you can watch it. It's called WWDC. But anyway, House Party is a social chat app where you can video conference with friends. That's where I talk to my Liberty University family on a weekly basis. I'm a part of 3 group chats. One is an iMessage group chat for school, but the other is fun, and I'm part of an Instagram group chat as well. Later this month, I will feel more comfortable going back outside to socialize as things get, safer. But the life tip here is, meaningful friendships over meaningless association. And what that means is that as you continue to stay connected to your friends, what you want to do is make sure that as you're using these internet-based platforms, keep the closeness, keep the inner workings of the relationship the same. And as far as what I've done to network with people that are not just, friends, that can be chalked up to Facebook, Instagram, Google, and Zoom. Some people have not materialized into podcast episodes yet, but as you all have probably noticed, I regularly communicate with Kelly from the Daily Grind on Twitter. Twitter has been helping me get new podcast guests, Facebook groups that we're a part of. There's one Facebook group that accounts for the majority of the guests, and it's just been super exciting to know that things have changed rapidly from a geographical standpoint with friends, and that we're scheduling, meets and keeping things close knit. So be intentional, keep things the same, schedule stuff as much as possible, make sure your work-life balance is on point, just little things like that, because keeping in touch with people, it's always been a basic, fundamental human thing that we do. But now that the coronavirus has flipped the world upside down, we're doing it way more than usual. Like Kelly said, we all are digging into our smartphones and our social media apps and keeping up with friends and family everywhere, all over the world these days. And it's a lot more prevalent, I believe, because 90% to 95% of the world are working remotely from home. That is playing a huge factor in the rise of connection with friends and family from the jump right after your workday ends. So, yeah, I'm, super excited about, my connections with friends, and don't just take my advice. Apply it into your own, life. You never know what can happen if you create time in your schedule for people that are regularly a part of your life, who have been there for years and years and years, but also cultivating with the new people who have come into your life and continuing to grow with them. 12 people in 3 to 4 months, and they're all new. We've barely known each other for a few months, but the closeness is there. I'm telling you, Daily Grinders, It is possible to build. You just have to make time and be willing to invest in between your busyness.
Really well said there, Nate. I think it's really important too, like Nate just mentioned, just to stay in touch. A phone call, a simple phone call, a simple text, connecting with someone on one of your social media channels, your favorite social media platform, video calling, things like that. Nate mentioned many different platforms you can use and ways to utilize them. So I think it's really important during this time. And again, we're still not 100% back to normal. So I would say reach out, try something new if you haven't done already. Time is now. Time is valuable. And as a daily grinder out there in the world, you can make a specific time out of your day. It definitely makes a difference. Every minute counts, or every second counts, however small or little you want to measure it. So yeah. We challenge you both. So yeah, speaking of COVID and coronavirus, things of that, I know for Chicago, where I'm based, we're still in phase 4 of the phasing to be completely back to normal. So I wanted to ask you, Nate, what's the status in your neck of the woods?
Well, in my neck of the woods, we are on a different plane than DC. So it's a little bit different, but we are in phase 2, heading for phase 3. Counties in phase 2. But again, more states in the US have experienced spikes, and depending upon your county may or may not be a hotspot. Unfortunately, mine is, and we have continued to see a few spikes here and there, which is not making our case great, but I'm sure we will get back on track and join the rest of the state. So I'm a little bit concerned, but I'm not overly concerned. So I admonish every listener on the show to, number 1, stay safe. Number 2, check in on your family members or your roommates who live with you and go over what you are physically susceptible to, because we don't want anyone catching the coronavirus. But at the same time, don't allow fear to hold you back from enjoying life. As the government recently said, we have to live with this now. So I admonish you to do that. Now I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to go back out there when it comes to people one-on-one, not crowds. They still want you to avoid crowds at all costs, but people one-on-one, 2-on-1, 6 feet apart, socially distanced, safe socializing from a physical standpoint is possible. So yeah, gradual rollout, one person at a time. And as the world gets back to normal and we continue to push towards the new normal, the post-COVID life, then you'll find that your personal life is thriving and reverting to what it's going to look like in the new normal post-COVID, because let's be honest, the world will never be the same as it was before the virus came. It will be 10 times different when the virus goes away, and we'll have to adjust to whatever the newness, whatever the absolute, groundbreaking things are. But there's also a positive part. With the new world coming post coronavirus, more jobs will be created. There will be more romance, more friendship, more family building. This is only going to strengthen not just the economy of the US, but the economy of the world and the livelihood of the world. And so I'm really excited for what's coming in the future. I'm excited for my own future, and I'm excited for your future, because you have the power to create whatever future you want when this virus does pass.
Yep, there's a lot of things are changing, and we need to just be adaptable to that change. You hit with the nail on the head in regards to being safe, being healthy, thinking about your choices that you make. Just be smart about your choices and what you do on a daily basis. And again, reach out to your network, your close friends, family, friends. Give them that quick text or short call. See how they're checking, how they're doing. We want to support each other, and we want to make sure everyone's being able to make the most of their daily grind and be healthy at the same time, to achieve their goals down the roads.
Yeah, I agree, especially in the climate that we're in now. As a lot of you probably realized, as the time that Kelly and I are recording this, it is the 9th of July. At the time you all woke up this morning, I'm sure you all got the shocking and heartbreaking news that Glee actress Naya Rivera went missing, and she left behind her 4-year-old son. And now there's fears that she possibly has drowned, and the search and rescue is continuing. And so what Kelly said, absolutely key. What I've said, keep up with family and friends. You don't know when your last day is, and we would hate for you to go and have unresolved conflict, unresolved issues. It's just unpredictable times that we're in right now. So our hearts go out to Naya Rivera and her family and her son. But yeah, make the most of every opportunity, because you really don't know how much time you have left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really well said there, Nate. I think that's another life tip sprinkled into our episode for today. But yeah, speaking of today's episode, you shared, I think during COVID, or during this time, has allowed both of us and our listeners out there as well to explore more talent, like try new music, entertainment, things like that. Since your last time on the podcast on the Daily Grind, you shared some favorite pods out there, name drop some artists. Do you think you can share some more with us out there, some recommendations?
Oh, yes. So in the last couple months since my last appearance on the Daily Grind, I have been consulted for not one, but two brand new podcasts that have popped up on Anchor. And that would be uh, my two friends that reached out to me. And so one of them has a womanhood podcast for women, and the other has her show called Talk About It Tuesdays, McKay's Corner. And both young women reached out to me and just asked a few questions. It wasn't really like a super long confrontational meeting, but just 1 to 2 questions about the Anchor platform and how to create a podcast and stuff like that. So that's really just been amazing to have been a part of the integral beginnings of 2 brand new podcasts in some way, shape, or form. I've also been listening into the Working Overtime podcast with my friend CN Sloan, where she talks about having a 9-to-5 job while striving to make your creation full-time in the future. That show has helped me tremendously in my journey to become a full-time motivational speaker. I've met CN Sloan. We've continued to meet on a monthly basis as part of my monthly effort to connect with fellow teammates in the podcast world. I will be continuing to listen to the Daily Grind Season 2 from start to finish. I am heavily listening into the What's Stopping You podcast with Kelsey Jones. I'm thoroughly enjoying that show, and will hopefully soon be meeting her as well. She's a great host, long lost family member, because, last names somewhere down the family tree, Jones. And then as for the third person that I'm connecting with from a podcast standpoint, the psyche mental well-being, my mental health and mental well-being podcast, let me actually get this name right so that I don't butcher it, because she's going to hear this and butcher me. Psyche Podcast, Psyche Mental Wellbeing Podcast. There we go. It's by Hannah Stainer. You'll be able to hear her in episode 3. She's my friend from the UK who will be a guest on Life Tips season 4. We've started meeting, and so it's just been amazing meeting brand new podcasters. And tomorrow, in the episode that is dropping specifically for Miss Kelsey, because she reached out to me saying she needed some motivation, so I dedicated an episode directly to her. When that episode drops tomorrow, you're going to hear me say this, but paying attention to other people's podcasts is another great way to help give yourself something to do and also keep your mind at ease during this coronavirus time where you're either slowly opening back up or slowly going back into lockdown, depending upon where your state is. Podcasts have been really, really inspirational and helpful over the last several months. I mentioned the Kendra D experience last time, which I was a guest on nearly a week after being on the Daily Grind season 1. Her next season is dropping on Friday, and I am super excited about that. So my friend Nuji is doing great in the rap world in Pennsylvania. He just dropped another project. So mostly podcasts this time in terms of just people that I recommend you guys get hip to. But yeah, podcasting is amazing, not just for yourself, but listening into other people's shows really helps you stay focused, stay connected to the community, talking to people and seeing people physically, like I'm doing right now with Kelly. That is a huge to really connect with the person that has their own show, that does this as much as you, and really keep the vibe going. So yeah, guys, listen into as many podcasts as you possibly can. Utilize all the platforms in the world and check in with people as much as you possibly can. And one last thing I'll say on that is dream big with the people that you're connecting with. I just got hip to T.I.'s podcast. I did not know T.I. had a podcast until I saw Lecrae, the hip hop artist that I mentioned in episode 42. He was on T.I.'s podcast. And so now I'm not only watching his episode, but I'm tuning into T.I.'s podcast, hoping that one day I'll be a guest on his show. And once you get a famous person on your show, that's it. So, yeah, guys, take that into consideration as you continue to seek out different things to keep yourself engaged during this timeline.
Oh, wow. Nate sent us give us a ton of recommendations. No worries out there, Daily Grinders. So we'll put his rec list in today's show notes, as always. Really great stuff. T.I. podcast. I have not heard it yet, but gotta tune in. Fan of his music. Definitely motivational.
Yeah. It's called Expeditiously. T.I.'s name is in the middle. Look it up. You'll find it. It's on Apple. It's got a bunch of episodes. I gotta play Backtrack. I'm still playing Backtrack with a few other people that I've tuned into over the last several weeks and months. Spirituality podcast. That's Spiritual ITEA -TEA. That is hosted by Dr. Latanya Moore, whom you will hear from in episode 6. So I'm really getting into it, guys. I'm really making this a part of my daily grind in life.
Yeah, lots of great stuff. Nate is in the heart of the podcast game right now, so he's killing it. So yeah, Nate, we talked about your daily schedule. So what's on your daily grind in upcoming weeks later this year? What you got going on?
A lot of work from home, and that is not a Fifth Harmony plug, but lots of working from home, building my business with World Financial Group that I just started recently. I'll be branding for the Wise Orator, continuing to build that, conducting more motivational speaking engagements virtually through podcast form, and then making my way to hopefully other platforms, YouTube, and just different platforms like that. And I'll also be regaining my work-life balance, albeit my work-life balance will look a little bit different due to coronavirus, but I'll still have some of the same elements. Y'all, without work-life balance, everything will crumble. You need work-life balance to sustain you after you've been hard at work on your daily grind, killing it at your 9 to 5, or killing it in your business or whatever you're doing to make money. I will also be launching more episodes for Life Tips Season 4. As I said before, episode 1 is out. Pastor Tina did a great job. So listen to that and get into that. Episode 2 with my man Will drops Monday of this coming week, which from the date we are recording this will be the 13th. And then, like I said, you'll be able to hear from Hannah in episode 3 on the 20th, just days after this goes live. And yeah, the guest list for season 4 is nuts. And as a special end, on September 28th, my mother will be the last guest of the season, and that is her birthday weekend. So that's going to be a very special episode of the season because she will be the only guest that gets face-to-face treatment. Everybody else will be getting virtual until we can go back to a sense of normalcy. I can't say what more speaking engagements are coming in the works just yet, but they're coming. The bookings are getting higher and higher. I'm being requested more. So it's going to be amazing. And the guest list for season 5 is currently in the works of being formatted. Recordings for season 5 will start soon so that we can get seasons 4 and 5 in the books, in the streams, so that the rest of this year during the last 6 months of 2020 can be absolutely amazing and filled with just so many great guests and positive messages. And then one more thing, we'll also be speaking on Life Tips podcast myself. I know you all miss me. I know you all love me. Don't just want to hear the guests. I'll be dropping those on random Fridays and Wednesdays throughout the season. So you'll still get guests for every season that follows, but you'll also get me to help you out and to give you life tips along the way. So continue to tune in. I'm dropping one tomorrow at midnight. Well, tonight at midnight in just a few hours. So I'm really excited for what's to come.
Wow, quite the schedule, Nate, over there. But very, very exciting. Teasing on a lot of great stuff. Sounds like a really good lineup for guests. Lots of great content, more life tips. So yeah, we'll be sure to check out Nate's Life Tips podcast and also have a plug for it towards the end of this episode, as always. But yeah, we're excited for you, Nate. Keep the grind up. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, Nate, do you have a word of the day to motivate our listeners out there?
Oh, yes. And all of you will be able to benefit from this one. The phrase that came to my mind is think before you tweet. Now, I have my moments, but subtweeting about how you're feeling about personal life situations is entirely different than what some people have been doing in recent weeks. And I'm going to tackle this from an individual standpoint first, and then I will tackle this from a brand and influencer standpoint. So for those of you who are just regular people out here using social media, please be careful. Please don't get caught making insensitive comments, jokes, statements, etc. Now, in 5 years, I've not fallen victim to this thanks to my platform, thanks to just the grace of God with jobs and stuff like that. But y'all, you can lose your job because of what you tweet. And cancel culture is real. It's taking out just about everything at this point, from shows to movies to statues to intense amounts of ridicule on Twitter. Please be careful. Brands, at some point, you're going to have to comply. Name changes are coming for many companies and NFL football teams and college teams, syrup and rice brands. And it's all thanks to mounting pressure from Twitter users. So brands, be careful. And then lastly, for the platform holders, Kelly, myself, other podcasters out here who are listening, many verified individuals who are where I'm striving to be from a status perspective have been tweeting stuff lately, and it's backfired on them in major public ways. From Terry Crews to Drew Brees to J.K. Rowling to Shane Dawson and more. So if you're going to tweet something, and this goes for Facebook and Instagram and all the other platforms and TikTok, but if you're going to tweet or post something that is not curated by your PR team, publicist, or about your brand, business moves, etc., talk about something meaningful and constructive. Imagine what would happen if you go viral for tweeting something positive, or tweeting something real about yourself that people ought to know. That's worth discussing in an article, rather than getting fired for saying something you had no business tweeting, or rather than feeling the entire weight of cancel culture burning down your back because you didn't think before you tweet. But what do I know? I'm just a random non-verified Twitter user with a conscience. So yeah, y'all, think before you tweet. Think before you put stuff out there. You will definitely benefit from it in the long run. The more you spend analyzing and critiquing versus just throwing stuff out there. It doesn't have to take long. It only take 2 to 3 minutes, but just do that. Don't be in a rush to get out there and make all your statements about stuff and get all your opinions heard and stuff like that. And one last thing, I really am glad that I was able to harp on that because, as we all know, the election is coming, and not to get political at all, but this is where you really have to be careful because everyone's opinions are going to be out there as the months go by. So just really be careful, guys. You really want to continue to spread positivity in this internet age that we live in, a little bit less than spreading negativity or just making mistakes in your dealings with the internet and social media world. So think before you tweet. There you go.
Yeah, really well said there, Nate. I liked how you had the two approach, like both on a personal level and like on a branding level. I think that's really important. But you make it real. I like it. It's really simple but smart in a way. Just think before you tweet. Just think before you type out something or express your emotions on a public platform, public social platform. As Nate mentioned, things can go viral. Hopefully, it's a positive thing that you tweet out there that it does. So we both of our platforms or both of our podcasts, we promote positivity and things like that. So I think it's really important, and I think it fits perfectly with today's episode. So as we wrap it up, Nate, if our listeners have questions, comments, want to get in touch with you, want to follow Life Tips, want to follow your social media, how can they do so after this podcast?
Sure. So y'all might want to write this down, but I am on Instagram at Nate_the_speaker or _orator Nate. Those are the two Instagram accounts that I regularly man. You can find me on Facebook at The Wise Orator and Life Tips Podcast. And you can also follow me on Twitter, where I mainly am at auth_gen_person. That's AUTH_GEN_person. And at Life Tips Podcast. So that's pretty much where I am on all facets of the internet for you to follow me. And of course, if you'd like to continue listening to the Life Tips Podcast, just visit www.anchor.fm/Life Tips, or look for it on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast platforms.
Awesome. We will put Nate's contact info in the Life Tips Podcast, where to find it, where to listen in today's show notes, as always. So thanks again for tuning in today's episode. Big thank you to Nate for being on the podcast. Ways to find the Daily Grind: follow us on Instagram at KJF Daily Grind and on Facebook as well. Check out our website at www.kjfwi.org. Feel free to follow your host, Kelly Fast, here on Instagram at Kelly J Lefty, or on Twitter at Kelly J Lefty as well. So until next time, my name is Kelly Johnson. Have a great day.